The mana personality is an archetype of the collective unconscious, just like anima or animus and shadow. To understand its role, we should first discuss the term mana, before we dive into the psychodynamics of the archetypes. The term mana, originally a Melanesian-Polynesian expression that largely became a Western category, represents a general designation for the magic sacral power emanating from certain holy persons, things, or places. While sometimes used indifferently to designate a universal force and a personal divine power, the sense of this idea may be found in the belief system of several populations. In the social sciences, it has been associated with the concept of charisma. Jung adopts this construct, using it in the sense of extraordinarily effective, while also employing it as a designation and metaphor for the magic and fascinating force of the contents of the collective unconscious. When the anima is unconscious to the individual, it is able to infiltrate one's thoughts, emotions, and even drive the person to incredible actions while keeping the individual enchanted with its power. This is possible because of the mana it possesses. When the anima is transformed into a psychological function between the conscious and the unconscious, it loses its possessive power over the conscious ego and becomes a complex of an intuitive nature. But what happens to the mana? Clearly, the man who has mastered the anima acquires her mana, in accordance with the primitive belief that when a man kills the mana person, he assimilates his mana into his own body. According to this, the individual ego should now become a mana personality. The problem here is that the mana is of unconscious nature and the mana personality itself is an archetype of the collective unconscious. Thus the conscious ego cannot possess the mana, by definition. The subjection of the anima only leads to a constellation and possession of another archetype, that is the mana personality. The conscious ego can have the mana only by unconsciously identifying with the archetype that actually has it. The possession of the mana personality is much more subtle, and so the danger of inflation is much greater. The mana personality is the well-known archetype of the mighty man, in the form of hero, chief, magician, medicine man, saint, the ruler of men and spirits, the friend of God. The figure of the magician has a no less dangerous equivalent in women. A sublime, matriarchal figure, the Great Mother, the All-Merciful, who understands everything, forgives everything, who always acts for the best, living only for others, and never seeking her own interests. The discoverer of the great love, just as the magician is the mouthpiece of the ultimate truth. And just as the great love is never appreciated, so the great wisdom is never understood. Once an individual conquers the anima, this will in most cases lead to an adulteration by another archetype, the mana personality. This is because the person can rarely help but to feel pride in one's achievement, thus the conqueror gets conquered by the magician whose possession is more powerful and even harder to distinguish than that of the anima. The only other option to psychic inflation and delusion is to recognize your limits and admit that you cannot conquer the unconscious. Anytime you try to master it, the unconscious will push back. If the ego drops its claim to victory, possession by the magician ceases automatically. But what happens to the mana? Who or what becomes mana when even the magician can no longer work magic? So far we only know that neither the conscious nor the unconscious has mana, for it is certain that when the ego makes no claim to power, there is no possession, that is to say, the unconscious too loses its ascendancy. In this situation the mana must have fallen to something that is both conscious and unconscious, or else neither. This something is the desired midpoint of the personality. That ineffable something betwixt the opposites, or else that which unites them, or the result of conflict, or the product of energic tension, the coming to birth of personality, a profoundly individual step forward, the next stage. Visit the channel for more videos on the topic.